Hey, to my second form Latin students, welcome back to another week. I hope that you're spending this time when you are sort of stuck at home doing some review. Review every day. You have the extra time because lessons, outings have been canceled. And I would say that it's not a bad thing if half of your Latin time, at least half of your Latin time every day, is spent reviewing. I am serious. So if you spend 40 minutes a day on your Latin, maybe take 20 of it to review vocabulary, to review declension endings, to review verb endings, do a verb synopsis, or pick a verb and conjugate it out completely and check yourself. If you do that, it really pays off later, particularly if you have trouble when you get to the sentences, because maybe your vocabulary is a little weak. You can't remember what the words mean. Maybe your endings are a little weak. You can't identify what case it is. Spending that time reviewing pays off great dividends later. And especially if you are continuing on in Latin after this year. But even if you're not, no time working out your brain is wasted. You know, people are thinking of ways to work out their bodies while they're stuck inside and lifting weights and stuff. You know, I've always said, have your brain lift those little weights by reviewing and practicing your Latin. Latin is a great mental workout. So, with that said, we have been learning to do the passive system in the first conjugation. This week, we are on lesson 24, and we're going to be applying that to the second conjugation. Great news, I'll just give it to you right up front. It works exactly the same as the first conjugation. If you have done your work well over the past 2 weeks, and you've learned your endings well, and you've learned the passive forms well, this will be a cakewalk for you. If you haven't, you're going to have to learn them now. So I hope you already did. To start off, let's do a verb synopsis, and we're going to add something different to our verb synopsis. Okay. We're going to do a first conjugation verb. We're going to do an easy one. Let me move over here. Let's do voco. All right. What are the principal parts of voco? Voco, vocari, vocavi, vocatus. All right. We are going to do, let's do first person plural. What is that? It is we. Now, we're going to add something different because we're going to do active and passive. Oh my goodness. All right, now I'm not going to have room to write on the board what they mean. So, present, imperfect, future, perfect, pluperfect, future perfect. Now, right off the bat, you don't know these, right? You don't know perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect passive. Oh, let me skip that over. So you're not doing those. All right. Let's conjugate voco in the present tense. Voco, vocas, vocat. Vocamus, vocatus, vocant. So vocamus. What does vocamus mean? We call. We are calling. We do call. Passive. Vocamer. Oh, let's do the whole thing. Let me get this over. Vocor, vocaris, vocator, vocamer, vocomedy, vocator. I had a blank out, or term or mini enter. I forgot the vocomedy. See what happens if you don't review. Okay. Vocamer means we are called, or we are being called. Okay. Okay, imperfect. Vocabam, vocabas, vocabat. Vocabamus, vocabatus, vocabant. Vocabamus. We were calling. All right, let's do the passive. Vocabar, vocabaris, vocabatur, voca bomber, voca bombity, voca bunter. Voca bomber. I'm having trouble reaching that. All right. Instead of we are calling, we were calling. Sorry, I'm out of it today. We were being called. It's happening to us. It's passive. Okay, future. Vocabo, vocabis, vocabit, vocabimus, vocabitus, vocabunt. So vocabimus. We will call. Okay. Let's do passive. Vocabor, vocabarus, vocabiter, vocabimmer, vocabimini, vocabunter. Vocabimmer. We will be called. It will happen to us. Okay, so from there on, let's just bring this up here where we can see it better. We don't know how to do the passive, so let's bring over to the active. To do these, we need the third principal part, and our stem is vocav. Okay, vocavi, vocavisti, vocavit, vocavimus, vocavistus, vocaverunt. So we have vocavimus. We called, we have called, or we did call. Pluperfect. Vocaveram, vocaveras, vocaverat, vocaveramus, vocaveratus, vocaverant. So vocaveramus. We had called. Last one. Vocavero, vocaveris, vocaverit, vocaverimus, vocaveritus, vocaverint. Vocaverimus. We will have called. Okay, so now you can do the first three passives. Rister, mer, mini, unter, borbarus, bitter, bimmer, bimini, bunter, barbarus, batter, bammer, bamini, banter. I have some sentences for you. Of course I do. It just wouldn't be Latin if I didn't make up some silly sentences, would it? Okay. Ooh, I got a bunch of them. I'm going to use my glasses here because I'm having trouble seeing my own writing. Okay. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, first. Vace, lupo. Oh, I put lupus. Terenter. Let's start with the verb. Terenter. Terio means frighten. Nt means they. But inter is passive. Instead of they frighten, they are frightened. Is there anything here that could be the things that are frightened? The subject. Well, vace. Vace can be a subject, plural subject, cows. The cows are frightened by the wolves. Now, remember something. We learned before that when we have a passive verb and the thing doing it, remember the subject isn't doing it anymore. It's happening to the subject. The thing doing it, we put in a prepositional phrase. We use a or ab, and it's called the ablative of agent. Agent simply means the thing doing it, the one doing it. All right, in this case, wolves are frightening the cows. Oh, speaking of which, let's turn this sentence into an active sentence. So this sentence says the cows are frightened by the wolves. Let's make it the wolves are frightening the cows. Now we need wolves as a subject. Lupus is singular. So lupi is plural. Are frightening. Well, it kind of gives us this right here. We just have to take the passive ending off. Terent. The wolves are frightening. Who are they frightening? cows. So we need cows to be the direct object. It's plural. Vacas. There we go. So we have the sentence said in two ways. The cows are frightened by the wolves. The wolves are frightening the cows. All right, let's take that away. Next step. I don't need the glasses again. All right. Let's go ahead and do this one. Legatus gladio terretur. Now, I'm going to introduce to you a new idea right now. I just told you that when we use a passive verb, let me put that other one up here. Vacae lupus terrentur. I told you that whoever's doing it, the ablative of agent, move this over a little bit, is put in the ablative case with the preposition a or ob. Here, I'm not liking this, and I'm moving my whole setup over. I like that much better. Now, this is only true, this ablative of agent is only true if it's a living thing. I know I'm going to make this more difficult. If it's not a living thing that did it, it's called ablative of means, and we don't use a preposition. Let's look at an example of that. Okay. Terretur. He, she, or it is frightened. Not frightens, but is frightened because it's passive. What could be the he, she, or it? Legatus means lieutenant. The lieutenant is frightened. Now we have gladio. It's ablative, but it has no a or ob. It has no a or ob. It's just ablative by itself. It is ablative of means. He was frightened by a sword. The lieutenant is frightened by the sword. When the thing doing it is not alive, it's just an object. It doesn't have the a or ob, and it's now called ablative of means. Right? So really, the only thing you have to remember here is if it's a person or a living thing, you use a or ob. If it's not a person, not a living thing, you don't use a or ob. But it's still ablative. Right? Now, this is the first time, I think, that we've ever used an ablative ending without any preposition. So this will seem a little odd to you. And you might, in some declensions, like second declension neuter here, or second declension gladius, you might confuse it with the dative because the endings are the same. But you will probably know what's happening because you will have a passive verb, and it will make sense to say that's the thing that did it. The lieutenant is frightened by the sword. Okay, so you will get used to this with practice. Let's look at another example. Okay, I am going to move my book over so that I can see it better. Put my paper towel over here. Well, my book's going to fall off. Okay, here we go. Maria a Marco salutator. All right, let's look at the verb. Saluto means greet. This is passive. He, she, or it is greeted. Who is the he, she, or it? Mary. Mary is greeted by Mark. He's the one who did the greeting. Is he a person? Is he a living thing? Yes, he is. So we used a and made it an ablative of agent. How about this one? Servi cena bona temptantur. Okay, tempto means tempt. It's passive. They are tempted. Who could be the they? What's the subject? Well, this has a subject ending. The servants are tempted, and then we have obviously an ablative. Can't confuse this with anything because it's got the A with a line over it. Good dinner. The slaves are tempted by the good dinner. Is the good dinner a living thing? Is it oh, I hope it's not a person. Or a living thing. Not anymore. I don't want things crawling on my plate. All right? So this is ablative of means. You could translate this way. The slaves were tempted by means of a good dinner. That's what they used. We could say that the lieutenant was frightened by means of a sword. But there's no reason you have to say by means of. You can just say by or with. I hope that makes sense. You're going to get some practice with that in your lesson. We're going to actually review this concept when we go to look in your book. All right. Let's do some other review sentences first, though. Oculi barbarorum. No, barbarorum. Sorry. Errant mani. Let's review some of this new vocabulary you've been learning. All right, we have a be verb. Aram, eras, erat, aramus, eratus, erant. They were. What is the they? The eyes. The eyes were big. Now we have one word left to do something with, and I see aurum. It's genitive plural. The eyes of the barbarians or of the foreigners were big. All right, next one. Magister discipulis res multas docuit. Let's start with the verb. Docio, docere, docui. It's the third principal part of docio, which means teach. Since it's the third principal part, it must be in the perfect system. It's got the isti, it. He, she, or it taught. Or he, she, or it has taught. What's the he, she, or it? Magister. Magister can only be the subject. The teacher has taught. What did he teach? Berace. S-A-E-A-E-M, A, S, arum, abus, S, abus. This can be a singular subject. It can be a plural subject. It can also be a plural direct object. The teacher taught things. It's feminine. Many things. Now, what are we going to do with discipulis? It can be dative and it can be ablative. It's going to need to be dative, isn't it? To the students. The teacher taught many things to the students, or the teacher taught the students many things. All right, let's erase that. Do some more. Legatus cum gladio fortiter pugnaverit. start with the verb. Punyo means fight. And we have the third principal part with the ero, eris, erit. So it must be future perfect. He, she, or it will have fought. Who's the he, she, or it? Legatus can only be a subject. The lieutenant will have fought fortiter. Do you remember what fortiter means? It's an adverb form. Bravely. The lieutenant will have fought bravely with a sword. Okay. Actually, that's technically not right now that I remember, but I won't trouble you with that right now. Okay. Romani, Gallium, Propatria, Vicerunt. Start with the verb. Vinco, vincere, vici. Vici is the third principal part of vinco, which means conquer. Since we have the third principal part, we must be in the perfect system. And we have the endings I, isti, it, imus, istis, erunt. So it must be perfect tense. They conquered, or they have conquered. Who could be the they? We look for a subject. Oh, Romans could be the they. The Romans conquered. What did they conquer? Is there anything that could be a direct object? Well, Gallium, is a direct object ending. The Romans conquered Gaul. All right, now what are we going to do with propatria? For, on behalf of, in defense of their country. For their country. All right, the Romans conquered Gaul for their country. Next up, let's just mix it up now. Let's do a question. Cupiant ne socii gladios. All right, let's start with the verb, but let's forget the ne. We're going to translate it like it's not a question, and then we're going to turn it into a question at the end, okay? So cupiunt. Cupio means desire. It's present tense, they desire. Is there anything that could be the they? Anything that could be the subject? Socii, allies. The allies desire, what do they desire? Swords. It's plural. The allies desire swords. The allies desire, or they are desiring, or they do desire. I'm going to put that up because we need to watch our helping verb. So we're going to turn into a question. Do the allies desire swords? Or are the allies desiring swords? We have to use one of our present tense helping verbs because it's in the present tense. Okay? Let's get rid of this. You know, if you guys can work through these sentences with me, you guys are doing great. All right, these are, this is a real workout. This is a super brain workout when we go through all these sentences. Okay. Multi Christiani a Romanus accusabanter. Let's start with the verb. Accuso means accuse, right? So, and bombasbat is imperfect, but it's passive. They were accused. Not they were accusing, but they were accused. Who could be the they? Christiani, Christians. Many Christians were accused. Remember, if we see the a or ah, we have who's doing it. By the Romans. Are the Romans alive? Are they people? Yes. So we use the a or ab, and we have ablative of agent. Okay. Quote Christiani fuerant in Gallia. All right, let's start with the verb. Fuerant. It's the be verb, and it's in the perfect system because it has fu, and it has eram, eras, erat stuck to it. So they had been. They had been. I'm going to write that above there. They had been. What had been? Christians. But what does quote mean? Do you remember? How many? How many Christians had been in Gaul? All right. Oh, I think I only have one more, guys. Oh, yes. Vace. We got to end with the vace. Vento movetur. Start with the verb. Movio means move. It's present tense, and it has the passive ending. Urus ter. He, she, or it is moved, or is being moved. Is there anything that could be the he, she, or it? The cows. The cows are being moved by the wind. Is the wind alive? Is it a person? No. It's by means of the wind. The wind is doing it, but it's not alive. This is ablative of means, and we don't use the a or ab. All right? So I will leave you with the vision of cows being blown around by the wind. The cows are being moved by the wind. That is a seriously strong wind. I hope we do not have wind, cow moving wind, anytime in the near future. But it's kind of a funny picture, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to scoot back over so I can be in the middle here. Please grab your student book, and let's take a look at lesson 24 on page 72. You can pause the video if you need to go get your book, but it's a good idea before you sit down to watch the Latin videos, grab your book, grab your workbook, grab a pen or a pencil so that you can jot down any questions you have, and also if we fill any parts of the workbook out. Okay, so I told you that we were going to look at, I guess we already did it in the sentences, sorry, both movetur and habetur. But I did tell you second conjugation works exactly the same way. At the top of page 72, you will see the model second conjugation verb monio, conjugated for you in the passive, in the present, imperfect, and future. Again, we find the stem, mone, in this case, and stick, or, ris, ter, mer, mini, unter, bar, baris, batter, bammer, bamini, banter, bor, baris, bitter, bimmer, bimini, bunter. Like I told you, if you already have learned those well, this will be easy for you. And if you haven't, it's another chance for you to learn it. Now, skip with me over to page 73 now. At the top, it's where it says ablative of means. Let's go over this one more time so that you know where in your book to find it if you need to review it, and also just to review it one more time, okay? The ablative without a preposition is used to express the non-living agent, the means or the instrument of the action, non-living. The noun in the ablative case can be translated with the prepositions by or with the precise meaning by means of. So let's look at example 1. Pueri gladio terenter. The boys are frightened by the sword. Swords are not alive. but a sword's the means that someone used to frighten the boys. So it's ablative of means. We don't use a or ob. Next one. The people are moved by the words. The words stirred them up. Are words living things? Are they people? No, they're not. So we don't use a or ob. Here's an example of using it. I didn't give you an example of this, but it doesn't have to only be in the passive. The Romans conquered the town, look at this, by means of swords. By means of swords. We have a saying, Ferrum Pharaoh executor. Executor. We're going to learn in our new lesson that ferrum means iron. Iron is sharpened by iron. All right. And metaphorically, we sharpen each other. You have to be patient with me. So that makes you a more patient person. Sometimes maybe I have to be patient with you. That makes me a more patient person. We help each other to grow in virtue. So Proverbs says, as iron sharpens iron, so is one man sharpened by another. Okay. This is ablative of means. Ferrum, iron, is sharpened by means of iron. Pharaoh. Okay. Now that I've given you Pharaoh, let's take a look at your other new words. Notice that we have a bunch of second declension neuter nouns. Yay! No weird genitives to learn, no weird third declensions, okay? But a couple of them are kind of interesting for chemistry purposes. First of all, argentum. Argentum means silver. Apparently, there's a lot of silver in Argentina because Argentina is named for silver. Okay, aurum, the second one. Aurum is gold. If you have taken any chemistry, or if you're going to take any chemistry, you will know or learn that the chemical symbol for gold is AU. This is why. AU is gold. Aurum. Column is neck. Collar, right, is the part of your clothing that goes around your neck. Column. Ferrum, I already told you, means iron. Can also mean, kind of metaphorically, a sword. If you've taken chemistry, or you're going to take chemistry, you will learn or have learned that the chemical symbol, the abbreviation for iron, is Fe. And this is why. Ferrum means iron. Lignum is wood. You have a derivative there, lignite. Lignite is a soft coal. So like a charcoal, which is burnt wood. Okay, so lignite, wood, lignite. Lignum. Scutum is shield. Okay, so I have this silly way of remembering scutum. I picture them using them as sleds, and they're sitting in their sleds and they're scooting towards the edge of the hill. It's the way I remember it. If you want to invent your own, but this is the one that helps me. Escutcheon is the derivative. This is a good medieval, since we're studying the Middle Ages in our other class. Escutcheon is a shield with the coat of arms on it. His escutcheon. His shield has the coat of arms. So do you kind of see scutum in that escutcheon? Tellum means some sort of missile, like a javelin, a spear, or a dart. I always tell them to bring their spears. Again, if that works for you, I almost knocked my whiteboard over. If that works for you, do it, or invent your own. Tergum means back or rear. Volum is pretty easy. It means wall. Now, Moinia, I don't know if you've learned Moinia. Moinia is like the city walls, the fortifications. Volum is more like one wall that you're shielding yourself behind. okay? But moinia is sort of like the surrounding city walls that go around the entire fortification. And vinum is wine. Vine, vineyard, right? So that's pretty easy to learn. So your job this week is to learn all your new second declension nouns. Remember that whenever you see a word in the ablative case that doesn't have a preposition, it's probably by means of. All right, ablative of means. And be able to use the passive system. Sorry, I think I moved and I made everything go out of focus. I apologize for that. I think that you will learn that if you learned your second conjugation passive well, you will not have any problem with this. Now, I wanted to look in the workbook. So grab your workbooks, please, if you have them there handy. First of all, do not worry about, well, actually, let's look on page 152 first. Let's actually do some of these grammar and word study questions. Number 1 says, give the 2 voices of Latin verbs. Hopefully by now you know those are active and passive. In the active voice, the subject performs the action of the verb. The subject does it. In the passive voice, the subject receives the action of the verb. It has it done to it. All right. And then please skip down to 5 and 6. When the action of a passive verb is performed by a person, the construction is called ablative of agent and requires the preposition a or ob. That's number 5. Number 6, when the action of a verb is performed by a thing, not a living thing, the construction is called ablative of means, and the preposition is omitted, which means left out, if you're not sure what that means. Omitted. If at any point you're doing these sentences and you can't, oh, what's the ablative of agent and ablative of means? Look in your student book, the top of page 73, where they've got examples there. Okay. One other thing I want to look at in the workbook with you. Page 157. They've got another one of these big paragraphs with italicized verbs, and they want you to say, they don't want you to translate anything. They just want you to say whether it's active or passive. Some of the sentences have more than one verb. We're going to do the first 2 together. All right? Gaia, the earth, came from darkness. Actually, this whole paragraph here is talking about the beginnings of the world according to Greek mythology. So this will be kind of instructional, educational in more than one way. Okay. Gaia, the earth, came from darkness. Came. Well, Gaia is the subject. Did she do it? Yes. Gaia came. So it's active. So on number 1 below, we would write active or just A. Let's read sentence 2. At first, the young earth was alone because no living beings had been created. Okay, I have a problem with the first one. At first, the young earth was. Was is a be verb. That's a mistake here. We're going to ignore the was, because be verbs aren't active or passive because nobody's doing anything. But let's look at had been created. No living beings had been created. Okay. Living beings is the subject. Are they doing something? No. Is something being done to them? Yes, it is. They're being created. That's a passive verb. All right. Actually, let's do number 3 together too. Soon the earth produced living creatures and became Mother Earth, the mother of all living things. Okay, first verb was produced. The earth produced living creatures. Is the earth doing anything? Yes, it is. It's producing. So that's active. Second verb, became. Earth became Mother Earth. Is Earth doing anything? Yes, it's becoming. It's active. All right, so work your way through that. This is good practice to help you identify active versus passive. Also, I want to point out that they say, I think this must be on the back of the end of your workbook, on a separate sheet of paper, conjugate video, teneo, ubio in the present system, which just means present, imperfect, and future, active and passive. Do it, okay? Do it. Check yourself in the book, and this is really good practice for you. All right? So that's all we have for lesson 24. Do the workbook pages. Learn your new vocabulary. Keep practicing your endings. Keep reviewing all previously learned vocabulary. All of it. Declension endings. Don't forget your declension endings. At least once a week, take out a piece of paper and write down all the declension endings and check yourself so that you stay current on that, so you don't forget any of those, okay? It's easy to forget. Don't stop learning all your principal parts. You know, you just worked really hard to learn all those third and fourth conjugation principal parts. Review them. Especially if you are continuing in Latin, this will help you, okay? But it will help you for the rest of this book too. As always, call me or email me with any questions at all, please. I am home. If I step outside and I miss your call, I will be very glad to return it. If you're more comfortable emailing me, that's fine, but it's probably easier to just call me. Your parents all have my number. If you call me, I can get my book out and we can walk through it together, okay? Till then, practice, 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 review, 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 and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.